So John Jones defends his light heavyweight title against Dominick Reyes at UFC 247 this weekend. If you're familiar with my channel, I usually do a breakdown stroke prediction of the main event for numbered events. Today it's going to be a little bit different because I don't believe Dominick Reyes has the skill, the capability, the experience to beat the best version of John Jones. But that's not to say he can't win this fight. What do I mean by that? So obviously I've been watching all the interviews leading into this fight. I've been watching all the content online, and Luke Thomas made a really interesting point. He drew parallels between GSP's title reign towards the end in the welterweight division and John Jones's current predicament. And what I took from what he said is he believes that John Jones has come to a point where maintaining the championship is almost bigger than winning the individual fight where he's defending the championship. So what that basically makes him do is fight safe. So he ignores his killer instinct a little bit. He takes less risks, and he fights in a manner that gives him the biggest chance of winning the fight, but not necessarily finishing the fight, which is why we've seen him get points decisions quite regularly in his most recent fights. Although I understand this point, and although this makes perfect sense, I don't necessarily subscribe to this. And the reason I don't subscribe to this is if I look back at John Jones's career in the UFC, so from the Ryan Bader fight onwards, because that's when he really announced himself as a genuine title contender, title threat. Since the Ryan Bader fight, obviously he fought Shogun and won the belt. But since then, who's he fought? He's fought DC twice, he's fought Gustafsson twice, he's fought Vitor Belfort, Chael Sonnen, Rampage, Rashad Evans, Glover Teixeira, he's fought OSP, he's fought Smith, he's fought Santos. I don't think I'm missing anyone. If I probably am, because I can't remember his whole bloody fight schedule for the last 10 years. But all of those names that I've mentioned, the people that have taken him 5 rounds, not including DC in this, the people that have taken him 5 rounds where it's been a surprise that the opposition has taken him this distance is, for me, Gustafsson the first time round, Santos, Smith and OSP. What do those guys have in common? For me, and obviously this is just my opinion, I don't feel like John Jones felt that those guys were a genuine threat to him. Because of that, I don't think the best version of John Jones was in the cage on fight night. I believe John Jones needs to feel that there's a genuine threat in the opposite corner for him to fight and give a peak performance. Which brings me on to this weekend. I don't think that John Jones necessarily believes that Dominick Reyes has the skill set to beat him. I think that is why John Jones has been trying to stoke the fire in terms of getting Dominick Reyes to get involved in a war of words before the fight, because it's a mechanism to motivate himself. So if we look at the fight this weekend, my basic prediction is a John Jones victory, but I'm not 100% certain whether he'll be able to get the finish. Having said all of that, as I said earlier, if it's not the best version of John Jones, there is a possibility, there is a chance that Dominick Reyes can cause an upset. Similar to how we saw John Jones fight in the Santos fight. That fight there, nobody expected it to go the way it did in terms of a 5-round battle, and nobody expected it to be as close as it was. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case again this weekend against Dominick Reyes. I just think John Jones has too many tools, and he's better than Dominick Reyes at too many things, and he's got way too much experience fighting at this level. So even the best version of John Jones, even if it's not the best version of John Jones, will be more than enough to defeat Dominick Reyes. Aside from the fight itself, I don't know, I kind of feel like a little bit that Jon Jones's star is fading, and it's not just down to Jon Jones himself, because I think when there's been the most hype and anticipation leading into a Jon Jones fight, it's been either there's been an element of controversy, failed drug tests, picograms, etc., etc., or it's been genuine animosity between him and his opponent, Rashad Evans, DC, Gustafsson a little bit the first time around. And with this current batch of light heavyweights, the guys that he's been facing over the last year or two, he hasn't been able to have that same dynamic with his opposition. I've just told you, I feel like because of this reason, we're not seeing the best version of Jon Jones in the octagon. And I think he needs to be a little bit careful, because although within the MMA community, the general consensus is Jon Jones is arguably the best that's ever done it, I don't know whether that's translating in terms of general popularity to the casual audience. This weekend's going to be a big test for Jon Jones, because not only is he fighting someone that may not bring the best out of him, not only is he fighting an opponent that doesn't really inspire a lot of anticipation amongst the wider audience, the undercard isn't very stacked. So the card itself isn't something that a genuine kind of MMA fan is really going to be hyped and excited about in comparison to some of the cards that we've seen towards the back end of last year. This card is resting squarely on the shoulders of Jon Jones, in my opinion, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of numbers it does in terms of pay-per-view sales, and kind of how much traction and how it trends in terms of the social media kind of footprint that it has leading into the fight and after, you know, the day after the fight. I don't know whether after this fight it's the right time for Jon Jones to move up, because it's becoming a little bit like Groundhog Day. A challenger steps up, Jon Jones beats the challenger, not very convincingly. We don't see the best version of Jon Jones. I don't think we've seen the best version of Jon Jones since he beat DC the second time, which was obviously then ruled a no contest. But I feel like Jon Jones himself is at a little bit of a crossroads in his career, and I feel like he needs to do something now to make us remember who he is and what he's capable of. Let me know what you guys think. Put your comments below. Don't be scared to hit the like button, share this with a friend if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are about this particular fight, what your thoughts are about my opinion, what I've kind of my theory behind Jon Jones and his let's be honest, below par performances against opponents we believe he should be beating convincingly. Who knows? Like, also you got to remember, he's been fighting at the highest level since his early 20s. So even though he's only in his early 30s now, has he aged? Do you know what I mean? I don't necessarily believe that, because I think we saw Jon Jones hit the levels that we've seen him hit previously against Gustafsson the second time and DC the second time, and that wasn't so long ago. But anyway, I was trying to end the video and I just started talking again. So yeah, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. I'll catch you guys on the next one.